Chicago's winter nights are hauntingly beautiful. Cold, relentless, yet strangely comforting. The city lights flicker through the hospital windows, casting long shadows on the sterile white walls. I press my forehead against the glass, exhaling slowly. 12 hours of exhaustion weigh on my body, but the sight of snow blanketing the streets below offers a fleeting sense of peace. My name is Amelia Bennett. I've spent years navigating the chaotic halls of a general hospital in northern Chicago, stitching up wounds and whispering reassurances to strangers. But nothing, not the frantic pace of the ER, not the countless lives I've fought to save, could prepare me for the battle within my own family. I step into my apartment, my breath hitching as my eyes land on the familiar photograph on the shelf. My father's face, frozen in time, smiles back at me. 5 years have passed since lung cancer stole him away, yet the ache remains, sharp and unforgiving. "I'm home, Henry Bennett," I say to his picture, as always. There's no reply, but I feel like his gentle eyes are watching over me. During my father's illness, I temporarily put my career on hold to become a full-time caregiver. My knowledge as a nurse was helpful. However, the emotional burden of nursing a family member was beyond what I had imagined. Still, I have no regrets about spending those final days with him. Years ago, Amelia had been offered a prestigious nursing scholarship abroad. It was her dream, a once-in-a-lifetime chance. But Margaret had intercepted the acceptance letter, telling Amelia that she had been rejected. She later learned the truth from an old colleague, but by then, the opportunity was gone. That betrayal had shaped Amelia's resilience, but also left a wound that never fully healed. "Amelia, you always put yourself last. You need to value your own life more." That was one of the last things my father said to me. Looking back, I think he understood my personality well. I open the refrigerator and heat up yesterday's leftovers in the microwave. It's a simple dinner, but it's enough for tonight. While sitting at the table, I remember that I didn't answer my mother's call again today. My mother, Margaret, has become increasingly harsh and critical since my father's death, especially toward me. On the other hand, she's unusually indulgent with my sister, Lauren. This favoritism has continued since childhood, but while father was alive, there was balance. Now it's different. "Amelia, why do you wear such cheap clothes? Surely a nurse's salary could afford something better. Amelia, you're really becoming like your father, stubborn and self-centered. Learn from Lauren. At least she's thinking about her future." Mother's words always have thorns. No matter what I do, it's insufficient and wrong in her eyes. Sometimes her words hurt me to tears, but I'm used to it now. That's our relationship. A letter from Lauren, but there's nothing. Communication from my sister has notably decreased in recent months. Lauren graduated from law school and currently works at a major law firm in the city. Much of Lauren's college expenses came from father's insurance money and my savings. I chose to prioritize my sister's future over my own career. I don't regret it. I want Lauren to have a wonderful life, and now she's making that happen. A few months ago, I heard that Lauren got engaged to Ethan Carter, a lawyer at the same firm. I didn't hear it directly, but through a phone call from Mother. "Lauren is engaged to Ethan. Isn't it wonderful? He's a graduate from a top university, a promising young lawyer, the first success story in our family." Mother's words contained an unspoken message. "Not you. I'm just a nurse." In her eyes, I don't appear to be successful. Since the engagement news, I've heard that wedding preparations are underway. However, I haven't received an invitation. At first, I thought it might be a mail delay or something, But as days pass, my anxiety grows. Being family, I should naturally be invited. Or so I wanted to believe. Amelia, she's busy. Wedding preparations are demanding, you know? That was Mother's response when I finally got up the courage to call and ask last week. I can't reach Lauren herself. Messages or calls from her are unanswered. Rare. I tell myself it's because she's busy. I pick up my smartphone and look at the last text message from Lauren. It's from 3 months ago. Thank you, Amelia. I was really happy. Ethan also liked your present. Let's meet soon. Since then, soon has never arrived. Strangely enough, I've built a good relationship with Ethan's family, particularly with his mother, Olivia, whom I met by chance through a mutual acquaintance and immediately hit it off with. Olivia is a former nurse who now works for a healthcare-related NPO. We share a common interest in medicine and occasionally chat over tea at a cafe. Amelia, you're truly a thoughtful person. Lauren always says she's proud of you. When Olivia said that, I was a bit surprised. To think that Lauren talks about me. At least she seems to be saying nice things, which is reassuring. After finishing dinner and taking a shower, I prepare for tomorrow. Tomorrow is a rare day off. I don't have any special plans, but I'm looking forward to relaxing a bit. Lying in bed, I find myself thinking about the invitation again. The wedding is next month already. Is there still time? Should I buy a dress? What would be a good present? What does Lauren need? With these thoughts, I fall asleep. On the morning of the wedding day, I wake up early. The soft morning sun streams through the window, dyeing the room a pale orange. Today is my sister Lauren's special day. The invitation never arrived, but I believe that as family, of course, I would attend. That's what I want to believe. From my closet, I take out the pastel blue dress I had specially purchased last month. It was my father's favorite color. It wasn't expensive, but for someone living a modest life like me, it was a bit of a luxury. Standing before the mirror, I fix my appearance, carefully arranging my hair in an updo. I attach pearl earrings, a keepsake from my father, to my earlobes, completing a simple but elegant look. At least today, you look somewhat decent. Speaking to my reflection, my mother's voice echoes in my mind. Today, of all days, I want to rebut her words that always criticized my appearance. On the bed lies a gift for Lauren, a handmade blanket I had knitted over 2 months. White yarn with small blue flower patterns is woven in a design wishing for purity and happiness in married life. It was modeled after a legendary blanket that Father had given Mother when he proposed, or so the story goes. It was one of the few happy family memories I had heard from Mother many times. I hope Lauren likes it. I carefully wrap the gift in paper and tie a ribbon. On the card, I write simply, "Wishing you eternal happiness." Sometimes, fewer words resonate more deeply. I call a taxi and head to the luxury hotel downtown. The cityscape of Chicago, visible from the car window, goes about its usual daily routine. But my heart is filled with complex emotions. Joy, expectation, and anxiety are all mixed together. I want to celebrate my sister's special day, but I also question why I never received an invitation. "Windsor Hotel," announces the taxi driver. "Thank you," I say. After paying the fare, I take a deep breath and step into the hotel lobby. Luxurious marble floors, massive chandeliers hanging from the ceiling, flower arrangements decorating the space. Just as Mother had often said, Lauren had chosen the finest venue. The wedding reception is set up at the entrance to a large hall with a balcony. A young female staff member greets me with a warm smile. "Good morning. May I have the name on your invitation? Trying to remain as natural as possible, despite my nervousness, I say, Amelia Bennett. The staff member looks through the list, carefully tracing it with her finger to double-check. I can see her expression gradually clouding. I'm sorry, but... She hesitates for a moment, as if carefully choosing her words. Your name isn't on the list. For a moment, I think there must be some mistake. There must be some mistake, a misunderstanding, or perhaps an omission. Could you please check again? Amelia Bennett. I'm the bride's sister. The staff checked the list again and even consulted quietly with a colleague. Her troubled expression told me this wasn't a simple mistake. I'm very sorry. Your name isn't here, Miss Bennett. I felt a tightening sensation in my chest. Was this just an oversight, or was it something else? A possibility I didn't want to consider. There must be some mistake. Is my mother, Margaret Bennett, inside? The staff member nodded apologetically and replied, Yes, Mrs. Wilson is already in the venue. Still holding the gift, I entered the venue with permission. Many guests had already gathered in the elaborately decorated hall. Among the sea of unfamiliar faces, I searched for my mother. And then I found her, enjoying a conversation with a smile, a champagne glass in hand. Feeling my heartbeat quicken, I slowly approached her. When Mother noticed me, she momentarily froze, her expression flickering for just a second. But she quickly turned back to her conversation, smiled at those around her, and gracefully ended it. I quietly asked, They told me at reception that my name isn't on the list. Is there some mistake? Margaret looked me up and down as if appraising my outfit, then put on a cold smile. The familiar color of contempt floated in her eyes. There's no mistake, she said. Her voice was low but controlled, so those around wouldn't hear. Did you honestly think you were invited? Outsiders aren't allowed in. Those words hurt more than I had expected. I thought I was mentally prepared, but I wasn't ready emotionally. Even if our relationship had cooled, I never thought I'd be excluded from an important family day. But what about Lauren? Doesn't she want me here either? I asked, feeling my voice tremble. Margaret's expression didn't change. Lauren is about to begin a happy married life. She doesn't need reminders of failures like you. Her words stung like poison needles, but at that moment, I caught sight of a familiar figure in the corner of the venue, Olivia Carter, Ethan's mother. She seemed to have overheard the conversation between Margaret and me and was approaching with a surprised expression. I took a deep breath and suppressed my emotions. I couldn't let tears show. I didn't want to show weakness in front of my mother. I see, I understand. Then I'll live my life as an outsider too. In a quiet but resolute voice, I said this and placed the gift I had been holding on the table. This is for Lauren. Would you give it to her? That is, if it's not too much of a burden for you. As I turned to leave, Olivia gently grabbed my arm. Amelia, wait! What's happening? Lauren said she wanted you to come. She was talking about you just last week. I hesitated. Olivia's words and Margaret's attitude, two incompatible stories. I couldn't determine the truth. Olivia, this is a family matter. Please don't interfere, Margaret admonished in a stern tone. Olivia, it's all right, I interrupted. Today is my sister's important day. I don't want to cause any problems. Olivia looked like she wanted to say something, but I gently smiled, squeezed her hand, and simply said, "Thank you," before leaving. When I stepped outside the hotel, the sky was clear, but my heart was in turmoil like a storm. I hailed a taxi and said, "I want to go home." The driver, seeing me holding back tears in the back seat, kindly started driving without asking any questions. Meanwhile, inside the venue, wedding preparations had entered their final stage. Music was playing, and guests were starting to take their seats. The announcement signaling the start of the ceremony echoed through the hall. At that moment, Margaret's smartphone began to ring. At first, she tried to ignore it, but when the phone wouldn't stop ringing, she showed an apologetic expression to those around her and stepped outside the venue. On the other end of the line, she heard Lauren's excited voice. "Where's Amelia?" "I said I wanted to see her before the ceremony." Margaret was momentarily at a loss for words. "She didn't come," she finally responded. Her voice sounded hollow as she lied. "What?" "But Olivia says she saw Amelia. She was at the venue." At that moment, Margaret saw Olivia talking to Lauren, her expression severe, apparently telling her the truth. When Margaret returned to the venue, the ceremony had already begun. Lauren, dressed in a beautiful wedding gown, was making her entrance. However, there seemed to be hesitation in her expression. As the priest's words progressed, Lauren suddenly looked around and stood up. "Where's Amelia?" At Lauren's question, the venue fell silent. Her voice mixed anxiety and confusion. Though beautiful in her pure white wedding dress, her expression showed clear distress. The groom, Ethan, stood up, looking confused, and whispered to Lauren, "Kate, what's wrong? Let's continue the ceremony." "Wait, Ethan." Lauren shook her head. "Amelia's not here. My sister isn't here." A small murmur spread among the guests. The priest looked around nervously, seemingly unsure how to respond. Olivia stood up and stepped forward. Her expression was stern, as if about to announce something serious. "Lauren, Amelia was here, but she..." She chose her words carefully, glancing briefly at Margaret. "She left." "What? What do you mean?" Lauren's voice trembled. Olivia took a deep breath and quietly continued. "Amelia was told her name wasn't on the guest list and wasn't allowed into the venue." The color drained from Lauren's face, turning pale. She looked at Margaret with a trembling voice. "Mom, what does this mean? Amelia is my sister. Why did you remove her name from the invitation list?" Margaret, conscious of the eyes around her, showed an uncomfortable expression. She shrank her body as if shrugging her shoulders and began making excuses in a low voice. "Lauren, this is your special day. If Amelia came, she would try to steal the attention as always. I just wanted to prevent her from stealing the spotlight on your big day. She always needs to be the center of attention." Anger appeared in Lauren's eyes. "That's not true. Amelia has never been jealous of me or tried to steal attention. She's always supported me." Margaret made a scoffing sound. "You just don't know her true nature. I was only trying to protect you." The murmuring in the venue grew louder, and Ethan looked at his parents with a confused expression. Thomas Carter, who had been sitting next to Olivia, stood up. He was a tall, dignified man who served as a senior partner at the law firm. "What is the meaning of this?" Thomas's voice was low but powerful. "We thought today was a blessed day when two families would become one, but what's happening before our eyes is..." He cut off his words and stared intently at Margaret. "I never thought we would welcome our children into a family like this. I don't want to be associated with people who exclude their own family." At those words, the venue froze in tension. Lauren covered her face with both hands and began to shake. Her shoulders trembled, and the hem of her wedding dress spread across the floor, making her look both beautiful and sad. Ethan rushed to Lauren's side without hesitation and embraced her shoulders. "It's okay. I'm here for you," he whispered gently and took her trembling hand. I'm going to call Amelia. Lauren took out her smartphone through tears and dialed Amelia's number. The ringtone continued, but there was no answer. She's not answering, she muttered, with a desperate expression. Ethan squeezed Lauren's hand and said gently, "She's hurt. She needs time." Lauren tried calling once more, but still no answer. She let out a deep sigh and raised her tear-soaked face. Then, she began speaking to all the gathered guests. "Everyone, I'm truly sorry that things have turned out this way today." Her voice was shaking, but gradually regained its strength. "Actually, there's something I hadn't realized until now." She looked at Margaret for a moment, then continued, "Mom has been keeping Amelia away for months. She wanted me to think all my success was my own achievement, but I wouldn't be here today without Amelia." Ethan's hand tightened around Lauren's as she began reflecting on her past. "I was able to go to law school because Amelia helped with the tuition. She sacrificed her own career to care for Dad and support my dreams. When I went to my first job interview, she bought me a suit and practiced with me repeatedly." Many guests showed sympathetic expressions at Lauren's words. Margaret blushed and lowered her gaze to the floor. "And this dress I'm wearing today?" Lauren slightly lifted the hem of her wedding gown. "I wanted to consult with Amelia when choosing it, but Mom said, 'Amelia is busy.'" Lauren's phone buzzed with a message from Olivia. She glanced at the screen mid-ceremony, expecting a simple congratulations. Instead, what she saw made her blood run cold. It was a screenshot of messages, dozens of them. Messages from Amelia, ones she had never seen. Tears welled in her eyes as she read Amelia's words from years past. "I miss you, Lauren. Why haven't you replied? Mom said you're too busy, but I hope you're okay." Lauren's hands trembled as she turned to her mother. "Mom, what did you do?" Olivia approached Lauren and gently placed a hand on her shoulder. "Amelia is truly a wonderful person," Olivia said softly. "She's always talking about how much she loves you. Every time we meet, she asks, 'How is Lauren? Are her wedding preparations going well?'" At those words, Lauren's expression crumbled further. "I'm the worst sister, taking everything Amelia did for me for granted." Ethan stepped forward as if having made a decision. "Everyone, I apologize, but we're postponing today's ceremony." Various reactions spread through the venue. Sounds of surprise, nods of understanding, and small sighs. "We believe a true wedding can only happen when the entire family is together," Ethan said with resolution. Ethan stepped forward, his voice steely. "I won't marry into a family that betrays its own. If Amelia isn't welcome here, then neither am I." Gasps filled the hall. Lauren turned to him, her eyes wide with gratitude. "You mean that?" she whispered. He took her hands. "You're my family now, and we won't build our future on lies and cruelty." Margaret's face drained of color as guests began murmuring. The once perfect ceremony was falling apart. Lauren looked at Ethan with gratitude and squeezed his hand tightly. "Thank you," she whispered softly. Ethan's father, Thomas, stepped forward and politely addressed the gathered guests. "Ladies and gentlemen, despite many of you traveling from afar, we have come to this conclusion. Please understand our decision." Then, he turned to Margaret with a stern expression. "I cannot trust someone who doesn't value family. How could you do something so despicable?" Margaret was at a loss for words. Standing motionless, her face was pale, and her hands trembled slightly. It was the moment when the false image she had built over the years crumbled in an instant. Lauren lifted the hem of her wedding dress with one hand, clutching her smartphone with the other. "I need to find Amelia. I need to apologize to her." Ethan nodded and placed his jacket over Lauren's shoulders. "Let's go together." The two began walking toward the venue doors. On the way, Lauren stopped, turned back, and looked at Margaret. "Mom, I can't easily forgive what happened today, but you are my mother. I hope there will be a day when we can reconcile." Margaret couldn't say anything, only crying silently. Lauren and Ethan held hands and left the venue behind them. Thomas and Olivia stayed behind, handling the guests. As Lauren reached the exit, Olivia called out to her, "When you find Amelia, tell her we send our love too." After the two left the venue, a beautiful sunset spread across the sky. Lauren took a deep breath and said, "I know where Amelia is." Pulling Ethan toward the car, they drove in silence. Amelia's apartment was on the 3rd floor of an old building in North Chicago. It was where she had once lived with her father. She continued to live there after his death, cherishing the memories. From the window, she could see a small park, the changing seasonal views, her only comfort. Having returned from the wedding, Amelia sat on the sofa by the window, still in her formal attire. Ignoring her constantly ringing smartphone, she just stared outside. In the park, children were playing, parents watching with smiles, a scene that made one feel the warmth of family. "Family," Amelia whispered softly. Something felt broken inside her after today's events. Tears had already dried up, leaving only emptiness in her heart. "I'll live as an outsider," she murmured. She stood up and headed to the closet to take off her dress. She would probably never wear it again. Around 7 p.m., a sudden knock sounded at the door. Amelia did not respond, hoping whoever it was would leave. But the knocking continued, and eventually, voices were heard. "Amelia, open up, please!" It was her sister Lauren's voice. Amelia didn't move. "Amelia, move! We're here. Let us talk to you." This time, it was Olivia's voice. Amelia was confused. "Olivia is here too?" "Amelia, I understand how you feel, but could you please open the door?" A male voice, probably Ethan. Amelia hesitantly walked to the door. Looking through the peephole, she saw Lauren, Ethan, Olivia, and Thomas standing outside. Lauren was still in her wedding dress, her eyes red and swollen. Taking a deep breath, Amelia slowly opened the door. "Amelia!" Lauren couldn't wait. She rushed in, clinging to Amelia. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." Her voice was thick with tears, her body trembling. Amelia was surprisingly calm. "Lauren, what about your wedding?" "Why are you here?" Ethan stepped forward and quietly explained. "We postponed the ceremony. We felt a wedding without you would be meaningless." Amelia was speechless. Ethan's parents also stood there, smiling gently. "May we come in?" Olivia softly asked. Amelia nodded silently and led everyone into the living room. The apartment was small, but she had created a warm space in her own way. Photographs of memories with her father adorned the walls. Medical books and novels lined the bookshelf. Lauren, still crying, took Amelia's hand. "I had no idea you were removed from the list. Please believe me. We learned the truth at the venue." Thomas continued. His voice was calm, but remnants of anger could be felt. "Your mother, Margaret, removed your name." Amelia's voice was flat. "I'm not surprised." "But why?" Lauren asked, her expression confused. "Why would she do such a thing?" Amelia sat on the sofa and shrugged wearily. "Mom has always loved you more than me. I was just a nuisance." "That's not true." Lauren raised her voice. "And there's something even worse." With trembling hands, she took out her smartphone and began searching for something. "Olivia told me Mom has been lying to me about you for years." "Lying? Look at this." Lauren handed her phone to Amelia. The screen displayed old text messages from Margaret to Lauren from 2 years ago. Amelia says she can't come to your graduation. She's too busy. Don't worry, we'll celebrate. Just us. Amelia's eyes widened. That's a lie. I applied for time off work that day, but Mom said you didn't want me to come. Lauren scrolled to another message. Birthday present from Amelia? Nothing has arrived from her. Don't worry, she's always too busy with her own life. I sent presents every year. Amelia's voice trembled. I asked Mom to give them to you. Olivia quietly explained. She also had letters and gifts from you, deliberately destroying the relationship between you two. Why didn't I notice? Lauren whispered, blaming herself. I should have questioned what Mom was saying. She took both of Amelia's hands and looked at her with a serious expression. Law school tuition, the suit for my first job interview, nursing Dad during his illness. It was all thanks to you. And yet, Tears welled up in Amelia's eyes. She had never felt such complex emotions. Anger, sadness, relief, and love, all mixed together. But why? Why would Mom go so far? Amelia asked in a small voice. Ethan quietly said, I think Margaret wanted to take all the credit for Lauren's success. Your existence threatened that narrative. Mom was crying when we left the venue, Lauren said. But honestly, I don't feel I can forgive her yet. Silence filled the room. Amelia stared out the window, lost in thought for a long time. Then, slowly raising her face, she looked at her sister. You are my sister. That will never change. Amelia's voice was soft but strong. What Mom did, it may take time to forgive, but it's not your fault. Lauren showed an expression of relief and embraced Amelia again. The sisters held each other for a long time, as if reclaiming the bond that had been lost for years. Ethan gently placed his hand on Amelia's shoulder and nodded. Ethan approached the two and said, Amelia, we want you at our wedding. The postponed one, of course. I'd be delighted, Amelia smiled, her first genuine smile in a long time. Olivia placed a hand on Amelia's shoulder and said kindly, You're already part of our family. We won't let anyone keep you away anymore. Thomas nodded and added, In our house, family is treasured. That's what matters most. That night, they talked until late, filling in the gap created over the years. They reminisced about the past. Amelia spoke of memories with their father, Lauren's childhood adventures, and the good times they had spent together. Remember that summer when Dad took us to the lake? Amelia said nostalgically. Of course! When I almost drowned and you jumped in to save me, Lauren laughed. Dad called you our family hero after that. As the night grew late, Olivia and Thomas decided to leave. We'll come again tomorrow, Olivia promised and gave Amelia a tight hug. Lauren and Ethan stood up to leave as well, but Amelia stopped them. Why don't you stay here tonight? I'll pull out the sofa bed. And so, the following Saturday, Lauren and Ethan's wedding was held in a small garden. Only close friends and family were invited. This time, Amelia stood beside her sister as the maid of honor. An invitation was also sent to Margaret. At first, Amelia hesitated, but eventually decided, She is our mother. We shouldn't cut her off completely. That kindness is your most wonderful quality, Olivia said. The day before the wedding, Margaret visited Amelia's apartment. She looked older than before, with deep fatigue under her eyes. Amelia, Margaret struggled with words. Come in, Amelia said quietly, and led her mother into the living room. I've come to apologize. Margaret's voice was small and trembling. I don't expect forgiveness, but I wanted to tell you." Amelia knew that Ethan's parents had persuaded Margaret, fearing she might not be able to attend her son's wedding either. Still, it was the first time her mother had spoken words of apology. "It will take time," Amelia said honestly, "but tomorrow is Lauren's special day. Let's be at peace for her sake." Margaret nodded silently. On the wedding day, while helping with preparations, Amelia prepared a special gift. It was her father's keepsake, a beautiful sapphire necklace. "Lauren, this is for you," Amelia said, handing her the necklace. "It's Dad's keepsake. He said he wanted you to wear it." Lauren was too moved for words and simply embraced her sister. "Dad would be happy," Amelia said softly. The ceremony took place in an atmosphere of love and reconciliation. Margaret sat quietly in her seat, watching her daughters. Amelia arranged the hem of Lauren's dress, and the two smiled at each other. "I'm so glad you're here," Lauren whispered. "I'm not going anywhere, I promise," Amelia replied. Winter, 1 year later. Chicago was covered in snow. Amelia returned to her apartment with tired steps after finishing her night shift at the hospital. When she opened the door, warm air and the small lights of the Christmas tree in the living room greeted her. Amelia's life had changed significantly over the past year. Lunch with Lauren once a week had become a routine, sometimes in the busy hospital cafeteria, sometimes at their favorite restaurant downtown. The two shared their daily lives and memories, as if making up for lost time. "Remember that doll you wanted for Christmas when you were 5?" Amelia asked at lunch last week. Lauren laughed nostalgically. "Of course! I was waiting at the door for Dad to come home from work, and you said, 'Santa is busy, so he asked Dad to bring it.'" In reality, Amelia had used her own savings to buy that doll, going shopping secretly without their father knowing. Her sister's smile had always been her greatest treasure. On the table was an invitation from Lauren that had arrived recently. "Merry Christmas. Please spend it with us at our home this year." The card had a handwritten postscript. "I have something to tell you, something very special." Amelia smiled. At lunch last week, Lauren had hinted that she was pregnant. There hadn't been an official announcement yet, but as a sister, Amelia had intuited it. She couldn't have missed that special glow when she gently placed her hand on Lauren's stomach. Meanwhile, her relationship with her mother, Margaret, remained complex. Since the wedding, Margaret had distanced herself from the family and lived alone. Once the belle of society, she found herself ostracized from social circles as her manipulations and lies became known to her friends. Occasionally, Amelia would hear updates about her mother from Lauren, but she had avoided meeting Margaret directly. In the weeks after the disastrous wedding, Margaret's life unraveled. Former friends distanced themselves. Whispers followed her in social circles, the woman who had tried to erase her own daughter. Even her employer, once proud of her status, quietly suggested early retirement. For the first time in her life, Margaret was alone, and it was a loneliness of her own making. But it's not easy for her either. Margaret had tried to contact Amelia several times, but her messages and calls were brief and formal. Her pride prevented her from uttering words of genuine apology. Amelia took a shower and brewed a warm cup of tea. Outside the window, snow was falling more heavily. Tomorrow was Christmas Eve. Before spending time at Lauren and Ethan's home, she had a short shift at the hospital. Amelia sat on the sofa and gazed at her father's photograph. "Merry Christmas, Henry Bennett. This year will be a little different." The doorbell rang, and Amelia checked the clock. 10 p.m. Who could it be at this hour? Looking through the peephole, she saw Margaret standing there, wearing a snow-covered coat and holding a small bag. Her face showed a mix of anxiety and determination. Amelia hesitantly opened the door. "Amelia!" Margaret's voice was small and trembling. "Do you have time to talk?" Amelia thought for a moment, then quietly nodded. "Come in. It must be cold." Margaret stepped inside, brushing off the snow. She had changed from her once dignified appearance and now looked like just a tired, middle-aged woman. Amelia took her coat and led her to the living room. "Would you like some tea?" "Thank you," Margaret answered softly. The two drank tea in silence. Snow continued to dance outside the window. Margaret tried to speak several times, but stopped. Finally, she took a deep breath and began. "Amelia, I was a terrible mother. I'm truly sorry for hurting you." Tears welled in her eyes. "For a long time, I justified my actions and blamed others. But the truth is, I was wrong." Amelia remained still, just listening to her mother's words. "You always sacrificed yourself for the family, taking care of your father, Lauren's tuition. You were a much better parent than I was." Margaret's voice shook. "But I didn't want to admit that. I was afraid to face my own failures." She placed the small bag on the table. "This isn't a gift. It's something I should return." When Amelia opened the bag, inside was a small jewelry box. Opening it, she found diamond earrings that had been passed down from her maternal grandmother. After her father died, Margaret had claimed they were lost. "These belong to you. I stole them." Margaret lowered her face. "I'm truly sorry." After a moment of silence, Amelia quietly said, "Forgiveness isn't easy. I've been hurt by your words for a long time." She took a deep breath and continued, "But perhaps we can restore our relationship step by step." A small light of hope appeared on Margaret's face. "Tomorrow, there's a Christmas dinner at Lauren and Ethan's home. Will you come?" Amelia asked. "You are inviting me?" Margaret looked surprised. "Because we're family," Amelia answered simply. "Besides, Lauren seems to have special news." Christmas Eve, Lauren and Ethan's home was filled with warm light and laughter. Olivia and Thomas had also come and were helping Lauren with the final preparations in the kitchen. When Amelia arrived, her sister came rushing out to greet her. "Amelia, you came!" "Of course," Amelia laughed. "Oh, and Mom is coming too." Lauren was a bit surprised but quickly smiled. "Really, that's wonderful. Ethan, set one more place." A few minutes later, Margaret appeared with small gifts. She greeted everyone with a nervous expression, looking particularly humble toward Olivia and Thomas. Olivia smiled and offered Margaret a warm cup of cinnamon tea. "We all make mistakes. What matters is the courage to acknowledge mistakes and try to change is what truly matters." Before dinner, Lauren and Ethan gathered everyone for a special announcement. "Everyone, we have wonderful news," Ethan said proudly. "Lauren is pregnant. In 5 months, we'll become parents." Amid the congratulations echoing around the room, Lauren took Amelia's hand. "Amelia, I want you to be the godparent. Having someone with your kindness and strength beside this child means everything to me." Amelia nodded, tears in her eyes. "I'd be honored. I'll love this child with all my heart." Margaret sat quietly, but tears also glistened in her eyes. "And Mom," Lauren continued, "I want you involved in this child's life as a grandmother. The past is the past. What matters is what comes next." After dinner, Amelia stood alone by the window, watching the snowfall. Margaret quietly approached. "What a lovely family," she murmured. "It's thanks to you, Amelia. Your kindness and thoughtfulness became the power that reconnected this family." Amelia smiled. It's thanks to all of us. Family doesn't work with just one person. Ultimately, Amelia's patience and love broke the chain of hatred and brought a new beginning. As her father had taught her, the power of forgiveness is immeasurable. Margaret, after a long journey, began to understand the pain her actions had caused. She was now making daily efforts to become a true mother. It wasn't easy, but it was her own path of atonement to restore family bonds. That night, when the whole family took a commemorative photo, Amelia spoke to her father in her heart. "Can you see, Henry Bennett? We've become a family again, in a different way, but definitely a family." Outside the window, snow continued to fall gently. The wounds of the past weren't completely healed, but a new light of hope quietly shone upon this reborn family.